Hello, everybody, and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. How is everyone doing this evening? Happy and blessed Monday, and welcome to episode 550 of the Welcome to Asgard podcast, where tonight we're going to talk about Minecraft a bit, because man, oh man, the film continues to make money, having an amazing week 2 hold of roughly 50%. Now, those numbers did get updated a little bit with the actuals being reported, so it ended up dropping 52% versus the initially reported 50%, but that is still really, really good. So that film, I do believe now, is absolutely on pace to get to $1 billion by the end of its run. There's still some people in the comment section of these videos that have some doubts about that, or are doubting the ability for them to be able to accomplish this feat. But we'll go through the numbers and talk about why we think that is the case. And it is Holy Week, everybody. So a happy Holy Monday, everybody out there. If you are new to Holy Week, we'll talk a little bit about that tonight. And it's an open forum discussion as well. Holy Week themed, though, of course, we always take questions when it comes to current box office stuff and general movie conversations as well. Before going any further, though, please make sure you smash that like button, line up that fire button over on Odyssey, and smash the rumble button as well. It definitely always helps out quite a bit. And let's go ahead and say hello to the people who are hanging out in the chat tonight. Starting off first with Snortaboopus Cuber. Hello, humans and other quitters. What's going on, Snortapoopeth? Welcome back. Glad to have you here. He also says, how well. We got Raichu hanging out as well. Hail to you, Raichu. And I just saw this in the live chat, but Raichu, boy oh boy, upgraded his membership to the Chosen of Valhalla level. Thank you very much, Raichu. I really appreciate that, man. Thank you. I'll have to be updating my shoutouts video soon so that I can include your name. I'll also get you in touch. I'll have to add you to all the different Discord servers. You get access now to the giveaways channel over on the Discord server, to the Chosen of Valhalla chat over on the Discord server as well. And we'll get you taken care of, good sir. And if you have any channels that you yourself have that you want shouted out, it's also part of the perks of that level. So again, thank you very much for upping the membership to the coveted Chosen of Valhalla level. You're awesome. All right, let's see. We also got Jeremy Sikowski at 703 who had said, evening, Odin and everyone, a reminder, don't say the word chicken jockey or you will be the one who will have to clean up the mess. Is that when all the popcorn is thrown? Is that what the kids are doing these days? Oh my goodness. Again, as someone who did not find the film to be funny or entertaining, I do find the entire process and the entire reaction and all the stuff culturally that's happening with this film to be, sad to a point and entertaining as well. Sad because I feel bad for those theater owners. Obviously, they're happy with all the tickets being sold, but yeah, some of these locations, they're having to shut down these screens, and that could actually end up costing those individual theaters in the long run. Not to mention, of course, even if the worst thing that happens is they throw popcorn, that means that they, with a shortened staff, I imagine, because of COVID, and especially because Hollywood has continued to put out, flop after flop, they've probably had to cut staff and have not had a whole lot of people on as ushers. That means that they do not have the manpower, likely, to be able to clean the screens fast enough between screenings, especially when you have that kind of stuff going on. So, again, my thought ultimately goes out to them in the process. But Jeremy Sikowski is saying, again, to talk about the fact that there will be a mess. Luckily, it'll only be digital popcorn here. Wendy Hunter. Wendy! What's going on, Wendy? Saying, hello, Odin in chat. Hello to you. Welcome back. Always glad to have you here. We got Lord Batlazar hanging out over on Odyssey. Appreciate you. We got Lance. What's going on, Lance? Saying here, hey, OMB Reviews, what's your excitement level for Wrestlemania this year? I'm gonna be honest, it's not that hyped. I don't think that they've made the best decisions about this Wrestlemania, and that's how I felt for a long time too, because I am, as you all know, if anyone has watched me for any length of time, know that as a wrestling fan, I've never liked John Cena, ever. I think he's been overhyped since the very beginning of his career. Now people have in their minds that he's somehow one of the greatest wrestlers of all time because of his mic skills and because of the fact that he was champion 16 times. And I'm just thinking to myself, yeah, and every single year from the very moment that he was clearly being artificially pushed, he's never been good. So it's like now it's just because he's been around for so long and because of how much merchandise he's sold and things like that, people just automatically think, oh yeah, he must be good, or hey, you gotta at least give props to that. And all I can think of is, yeah, he was artificially created by the machine of the corporate WWE structure, and has never been a good wrestler at any point in his career. He not only has the five moves of doom, but he can't even do the moves very well. I mean, his finisher is a joke. So the fact that he's in a main event at WrestleMania already has me pretty ticked off. I really wish it had been Cody Rhodes versus someone who is a better wrestler, or at the very least, if there was somehow like a triple threat match, because John Cena is going to need something. I mean, I think that you're going to have a stipulation added or something like that, because the dude is not ring shape. He will get gassed very, very quickly. There's a good reason why in his debut back in the WWE, it was in something like the Royal Rumble match where he was able to take breaks, and then later on putting himself into the, Elimination Chamber, same thing. He came in very late and then also took a lot of breaks as well. All right, we got a couple super chats coming in. So Icthulu at 734, thank you very much for the $5 super chat, saying, for the Candy Fund, everyone needs to see the Karen Unleashed trailer. Never thought I would root for a Karen, but halfway through I was enthralled. And it's amazing, too, thank you very much, Cthulhu, is that it's all AI generated. If it's the same trailer I'm thinking of, the one that was shown on Film Threat. It's amazing that AI was able to actually create the visuals that we saw for the movie. But yeah, it's pretty hilarious, what they are able to do, not only with the technology, but also the fact that they were able to make it as entertaining as it was. Speaking of that, I've been playing around with an app, and the Modern Major General, who's in the channel tonight, shout out to Laura, the Modern Major General. We've been playing with this site called Suno, S-U-N-O. I'm sure people have known about it if you know anything about AI. I had never really experienced it before, and it's about like AI music generation, and I think it's one of the coolest things ever. I don't know. I'm very easily amused by those kinds of things. And let's just say there's some pretty rockin' themes that it's been able to develop for this channel. The only issue is that I don't really want to pay for the more premium service because I don't really need it, but you only can get rights distribution on the music. And it's like, can I still use it as a theme song if I give attribution in the credits at least, or attribution in the comments, in the description rather? Is that at least a possibility with it? Because I don't know. I would like to kind of use some of those songs because they're hilarious in just the lyrics that they come up with and everything else. I don't know. But anyway, Cthulhu, thank you very much for that super chat. We got Miss Mon Muses who's sending a super sticker. Thank you very much for the rose. Always lovely to have the rose in the chat from Miss Mon Muses, one of my chosen of Valhalla, and a very awesome person. And I know that you are very excited for this Holy Week as well. Hope your Lent has been amazing, and it was amazing so that especially the upcoming Easter, right? You can't have the Easter celebration unless you have the Lenten fast, unless you have the Lenten preparation. And so I hope everyone's Lent has been very fruitful and has prepared you for the celebration that we are about to partake in. All right. Let us see here. We got Jimmy A in the chat. What's going on, Jimmy A? Saying, hail Odin. Hail to you. Thank you for being here. There she is, Laura the Bottom Major General. She made her own theme song. It was pretty awesome. Icthulu tagged also to say here, hello and wish you all a great Easter Sunday coming up. Yeah, a blessed Holy Week. Right, we got Holy Monday, Holy Tuesday, Spy Wednesday, as it's known, Holy Thursday or Maundy Thursday, and then we have Good Friday, Holy Saturday, and then, of course, Easter Sunday. So my Easter celebration will actually start after the Easter Vigil Mass. So it starts around 8 p.m., the church that I typically go to. We're actually going down to New Orleans. So there will not be, most likely, a Monday show from Easter Monday next week, but I'll keep you all posted on that. Depends on when we get back and tiredness and things of that sort. But the Easter Vigil Mass is always a beautiful one, and there's a beautiful church down in New Orleans, St. Patrick's, which offers a Latin Mass vigil. So it's phenomenal. It's beautiful every year. They just do it very well, and it's always great to have that high liturgical celebration that is befitting Christ, and especially such a solemn moment that is the commemoration of his resurrection. Let's see. Short saying, is that Holy Week open forum or Holy Week open forum? Because I don't know that much about Holy Week to hold much of a discussion. Yeah, it's more so about a Holy Week open forum, so kind of like a theology open forum. We haven't had one of those in a long time. I think Holy Week is a great opportunity for that. But in general, whenever the titles I come up with, I obviously try to talk about all the topics that are there. But at the same time, the chat typically also runs things too. I see J.S. Pena saying, I'm almost there. I'm somewhat succeeding where I failed last year for Lent. Boom! That's what it is, man. J.S. Pena, it's about taking those steps, right? It's all about trying to build up slowly over time. Lent's a great time to do that. There's certain things you take on during Lent that you should carry over into your regular everyday life, because the things you gave up were things you shouldn't have been doing in the first place, right? And then there's the sacrifices you make of things that are not inherently bad that you can then start to enjoy again. So I always, I love Easter, of course, especially theologically, but I've always really loved Lent more so than anything else. It's just always, it's a good reset time, and it's a good way to be able to have like that mental capacity. Because sometimes, with ADHD for myself, I know having a goal or having a deadline, or in this case, having something set aside so specifically for, improving oneself, bettering your relationship with God, is to me such a powerful thing. And so the season of Lent itself, Ash Wednesday especially, has always had a very special place. It's probably my favorite time of year, is actually the very beginning of Lent. And then, of course, the very end as well with Easter. Let's see. Laura saying here, OMG, someone is at the door. What's going on? Oh, my goodness. Well, I hope everything is okay, Laura. I hope everything is okay. Forever Sci-Fi, all hail to you, Forever Sci-Fi. Appreciate you being here. Thanks for being a member here on the channel as well. Let's see. Forever Sci-Fi saying, starting to look like video game adaptations will be replacing superhero movies as the money-making genre. It very well could be the case. It very well could be the case, right? We're seeing with the Minecraft film especially a huge increase in revenue for a genre that typically has not been that much, right? We've seen some video game adaptations before. We think to like the Mortal Kombats and things like that. And even though I love the original live-action Mortal Kombat film, it's not one that we typically think of as being this huge box office sensation. And all the previous ones, all the following ones didn't do all that well. The whole reboot they've done more recently, there was an amazing online series they did. I forget the name of it. Maybe it was like Mortal Kombat Immortal or Mortal Kombat Rebirth or something like that. It was online series, and it was really, really good, really well done. And then like from that, I think there was this inspiration to then kind of now start like a reboot of the entire franchise. And the first one just was not good. It was not a good film. I know some people enjoyed it, but I just couldn't get through it. It was very tough. And I know that the sequel to that's coming out either this year or next year. So, but we've seen games like, we've seen video games, right, be adapted in the past to that extent. And then, of course, there's the infamous, Super Mario Brothers movie from back in the day, right? The live-action version, which was atrocious. But I still have a very special place for that film in my heart because it's so hilariously bad. No. He's Mario. I'm Luigi Mario. John Leguizamo. It's crazy. So now, of course, the big success that really got the ball rolling was the Super Mario Brothers movie, right? That came out just a couple years ago. And since then, now there's been this huge push for more and more things. You even, people kind of often forget, like the Five Nights at Freddy's was also a great example of it working, right? That was, in many ways, I guess you could say a live action adaptation of a video game. So it definitely does seem like that is the pathway going forward. But I think that really the box office, they have to be very careful of I always use this in the example that I give with the China box office, but it really can be fool's gold, right? It's not just because of the video game capacity or the video game factor that the movie's doing well, okay? Because we've already seen this happen with other films. We've seen how some audiences that you would typically think would be guaranteed for certain properties don't necessarily show up for a wide variety of reasons. So I do think you're going to see Hollywood try to adapt as many video games as possible from this point forward, but You can also look to Assassin's Creed. You can look to so many other examples where they did it wrong and it failed. So box office is not guaranteed for any video game adaptation. That's just, again, there's no guarantees of anything. The reason why Minecraft is working so well is because, people like to say, well, of course Minecraft's doing well because the user base is huge and the audience is young. But even then, it's like, okay, but there's a lot of franchises that had large user bases, and you could even argue younger audiences too, but that does not mean that it's just automatically going to do well. Clearly, the film was able to capture something special in the zeitgeist, capture something special in in the whole concept of memes, right? Really meme warfare, building that up, that meme audience. I think that is really what has set this movie aside from many of the others, and why this film has been such a huge success because of that. Because it's not because the movie's any good, because I'm sorry, the movie is just, it's abysmal, man. I'm still amazed that it's being received as well as it is, to be honest. All right, let us see. Making sure I'm caught up in the chat. I want to make sure I didn't skip any or miss any here. Let's see. Jimmy A, it seems like when you release a video game movie in the first week of April where Jack Black sings, it makes $1 billion. Yeah, this is the first example of that, so we'll see. Paul Stentaford. What's going on, Paul? Welcome. Saying, hey, Odin, why do you think Minecraft is doing so well at the box office aside from it being attached to a massive IP? So I kind of already addressed that question. So again, yeah, I don't think that's a good enough reason to say anything, because there's tons of massive IPs, as I've said, right, that do not make money, that have not made money. It's really because there is just something unique about this, and it's hard to really grasp. I think really the power of memes is what is driving this film so much, right? All of the kids with the whole chicken jockey thing, right? Like all the things that they have attached themselves to, it's just meme culture. So I don't know if that was done on purpose. I don't know if they knew exactly what it was that they were doing when they made the film. If Jack Black is just this genius of marketing that's going to be able to drive films. Like, is every video game adaptation now going to have Jack Black in it so that it can do all the meme stuff and then have him write music and all that stuff? Like, again, we've seen Hollywood do some stuff like that before, right? They take something that is successful and then they beat you over the head with it until you hate it. So I sure hope not, but... The Morak says, "Hail, I'd like to nominate Chicken Jockey for Quote of the Year for the Raven Awards." Of course you would. And I'm sad to hear that the Minecraft movie will get any positive nominations at the Raven Awards next year. It's gonna happen. I mean, it's just gonna happen. Yeah, unfortunately, the ballot I had, all right, I had a ballot collecting early nominations, right, for that short list like we did last year. Someone's being a jerk though, and every time I open it up, they attack it with bot responses. And it's just very, very annoying and difficult to tell. Basically, it's easy to get rid of all of the stuff, actually. It's easy to get rid of all of the spam that is put in there because it just replicates the same answers over and over and over again. But the problem is that it means that I have to go through thousands of entries that are not real and have to be very careful not to delete any actual authentic nominations that get put in. So I'm still trying to figure out what is a good alternative. What is a secure alternative for collecting nominations? If anyone has any ideas, please feel free to share those. Again, before I was using a Google form because it connects very easily to Google Sheets. It's very easy to, have that integration, get some data, get some charts. We love charts here, of course. But anyway, King and Rumsky over on the Green Machine. What's going on, King and Rumsky? Saying, I have no clue about Minecraft. Is there any way you could make sense of that game for me? It's okay if you can't. So as far as the game is concerned, there really is no plot. So I've only played the game, like myself played the game very minimally. Me and my younger brother, I say younger, he's 3 years younger than me, so he's in his mid-30s too. We played it a couple of times together, right, just to hang out, chill, right? We were in different places for college and in life, and so it was a way for us to be able to talk, but also do something at the same time at a distance. So, I've played it in that capacity, but I've seen tons of gameplay, all right? I used to watch a channel called Syndicate back in the day. I don't know if he's still around or not. He kind of became a little bit too corporate, too polished. It became boring, so I gave up on his channel. But, in the early days of Syndicate, when he was, building this huge underground layer, and being just silly in the process. So I've watched hours of it, so I know much about Minecraft. Now, again, as far as any changes or mods or anything like that, not as much of an expert. Or the modern stuff, the most recent Minecraft I've watched was when PewDiePie did his entire run with Minecraft more recently, right, the past few years. So in general, though, there is no actual plot. So what you do is in the game, you start off and you randomly start in what's called a biome, which just means, okay, there's like plains in it, right? There's a desert with sand, right? And depending on the biome, it determines what kind of resources that you have available, right? And so basically the first thing that you want to do is you want to start to, with your hands, because that's all you have, to tear up the dirt, tear up trees, right? And they all turn into these little chunks, these little blocks, and you collect those. And so over time, eventually you'll be able to get things like stone, and then you can make stone tools. And, obviously you have to use the sticks from the trees that you get. So again, I'm probably doing a terrible job explaining it, but in general, there's no plot other than you're playing to build. You're playing to survive, and you can build a lot of fun things, cool things. There is a little bit of plot in that you can, through the process of certain things that you accomplish along the way, get to what's called the end, where there is an ender dragon, and then you can defeat said ender dragon. But other than that, and there's mods, and I think maybe in the main game too, they have also these like little mini bosses that you can beat along the way, but it's not like you're trying to reach a specific goal or a specific endpoint. It's mostly a creative game, right? And you can play it in what's called creative mode, where literally you don't die, you don't get damaged, you don't have to feed yourself or anything. So you can just build whatever it is that you want to build. So it's really a really great game for more creative minds, as like an online creative outlet. But anyway, hopefully explained it well enough to be understood by the layman. Carl Jacobs, hello chat, hello to you. Welcome. Let's see, Wendy Hunter, who is a member here on the channel, saying, so true about John Cena. My brother went to official WWE wrestling school, so my bro knows the real guy, and he was a good guy. Yeah. Again, I do not deny that he might be nice, he might be a good guy in general, but he's just not a good wrestler. And then it says here, but now the machine has made him into something he didn't start as. Kind of sad. Well, that's the other thing too, right? It is acting, right? It's basically the way wrestling has always been described, and I think it is actually a pretty accurate description. Is it's adult male soap opera. It's soap opera for adult men, right? And obviously women watch it too, and kids watch it too, right? And the whole PG era became a lot more prominent amongst kids. But I was watching it in the 90s, okay? When I grew up, I was watching WCW, and then the Monday Night Wars started, and that's when I started shifting over to the WWF at the time, right? Before it had to change its name because of the World Wildlife Fund. And it's just, again, it's been in my life for so many years, again, since I was, before I was even 10 years old, wrestling was in my life. So I've watched a lot of it. And so, it is really much, though, a soap opera, right? Most of the stuff up there is all staged, right? There's characters there. So him being a heel now is actually a good thing, in my opinion, because it's the first refreshing change to his character in like 20 years. And the sad thing, though, is that even though it's like, oh, he's such an amazing heel, it's like, yeah, because he's never played it before. And it's awesome to be able to boo someone who I already just don't like as a wrestler because he's not that good of a wrestler. So, again, it's one of those, like, tough things. Anyway, Jimmy A. Now that you know how to use music with AI, we need the rest of the country song from last week. Oh, my goodness. I almost forgot about the country song from last week. I got my big up truck. Yeah, I don't know how to, I'm not very good with tinkering with the AI, right? So, the way that Suno is set up is that you can give like a general prompt, and then it just gives you lyrics. It gives you the song with vocals and everything. You can also put your own lyrics in too. But I don't know if I'd be able to fine tune it to sound the way that I'd be wanting it to. Let's see. Cthulhu, AI is public domain. They can't do anything. Yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying there, Cthulhu, but it was still produced by their servers. And so, according to their own site, you cannot use the music for commercial use. That's a part of their terms and conditions. So, if you use it, and if they are actively flagging content and music that has been produced by them, they absolutely could copyright that. And again, I understand the mindset of, but it's AI. Like, they didn't actually create it. Doesn't matter. They're hosting the servers and the programming that did create it. And so therefore they own anything that is created from that. That again makes sense to me. And if you are part of their subscription, right? If you pay for subscription, part of that means any music you create while you are subscribed, as long as you are subscribed, is something that you have a right to, in which case you can actually not only use it for your YouTube intros, but you could also put it on Spotify or even charge people for it at that point. So anyway, Ms. Modern Muse is saying, thank you. It's been very Lenti, a rocky road, but lots of pruning. Ah, yes. Pruning is the best. And that's why it's the traditional mass, especially the traditional liturgy, is so good at representing what Lent is about, which is that pruning, right? Going all the way back to Septuagesima, right? The few weeks leading up to Ash Wednesday, where you start to lose parts of the liturgy to remind you, hey, Lent's on the way. And then once Lent starts, as Lent goes on, you start to lose more and more things, right? Passion Sunday, last Sunday, or 2 Sundays ago, we covered the statues, covered the crucifix. This past Sunday, Palm Sunday, right? We started to lose also some of the prayers at the foot of the altar, and other things. So these are just great reminders, right, liturgically, about what is going on, which is that we are getting to the point where eventually on Good Friday in Catholic churches, the tabernacle will be empty. Like, it'll be open and empty in many Catholic churches across the United States and across the world. And it's to represent, right, the emptiness of the tomb, right, where Christ dies but then descends, right, as we say in the Creed, descends to hell to free the just souls of purgatory, and then rises on the third day. It's amazing. I love it. Justin C. does say, hail and good evening, Snow White box office. Bueller? Yeah, I mean, Snow White box office has not done anything. Exactly right. I mean, seriously, it's disappeared. And what's interesting is that Disney has clearly abandoned the project as well. I think, if I'm not mistaken, they actually stripped the film from like a couple of thousand, or maybe just 1,000 screens this past weekend. Let me see if I can get the full weekend chart here. Not sure. This is Snow White. Yeah, they pulled it from 1,200 screens, and it made a whopping $2.8 million in its 4th week. For a weekend, 4th weekend, a Disney live-action adaptation made only $2.8 million. Got beat by the 3rd weekend of A Working Man. Got beaten by The Chosen Part 3. And then also, of course, by the newcomers Drop Warfare Amateur King of Kings. Doesn't matter if it's the 4th week. That's a Disney release. That used to be guaranteed money for weeks. No longer the case. Cthulhu, bring back the Saint history lessons. Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, today being just Holy Monday, right? The start of Holy Week is, I think, really it takes precedence, right? So for those that don't know, in the Catholic Church, and again, I follow the traditional liturgy, and so it might be somewhat different if you were to follow what we call the Novus Ordo, or the new calendar, as it were. But in the scheme of feast, there are like first-class feasts, right? There are privileged feasts, and then there are lower ones. So, for instance, if we have the Feast of St. Joseph, right? The Feast of St. Joseph is, I believe, a second-class feast. It might even be a first-class feast, depending on where you are, right? And what that means is that if there's any other feast days on that day, they get trumped by the higher feast. So, in today's case, it is the Monday of Holy Week. But it is also the feast of a martyr called St. Justin. Now, it's not St. Justin Martyr. It's just another martyr from the first few centuries of the church called St. Justin. And so because of that, though, you don't even have an official commemoration of that, right? Because the first class feast is actually, it's Monday of Holy Week, right? There's certain readings that are for today. And this is the other thing, too, that was lost by the Second Vatican Council. It just drives me crazy, okay? So on Palm Sunday, you hear the entire Passion narrative from St. Matthew's Gospel. And then on the first couple of days of Holy Week, you then get the other 2 Passion narratives from Luke's Gospel and from Mark's Gospel. And then on Good Friday, that's when you get John's Passion narrative every year. And you lose that in the new calendar. Right now, it's a rotating schedule of what Passion narrative you get on Palm Sunday. Good Friday is always from the Gospel of St. John, which of course is great, but you lose just so much, right? Because if you were going to daily mass, and again, I long for the days of Christendom when Christianity was such a part of the culture, when worship was such a part of the culture, where every occupation would have had some respect and reverence towards holy days, so that it would actually be easy for you to be like, yeah, I'm going to Mass today. It's a holy day, it's not a holy day of obligation, but it is a holy day, and I should be going to offer proper worship to God. That's what would be awesome to return to. So anyway, unfortunately too, because of where I live, there are no daily Latin masses, at least that are not like doable as far as a father with 2 young kids, a full-time job, unfortunately. So I'm happy to have my weekly Latin mass that's easy to get to, but yeah, anyway. Again, this will be more theologically heavy stream than usual, but we'll still have our box office talk as well. Again, y'all drive the conversation like usual. Carl Jacobs saying here, Holy Week is going to be distracted for me. Wife is having surgery on Monday, Thursday. Well, I'll be praying for you, Carl Jacobs, praying for your wife as well. And it might seem odd, but it's one of the better days, I feel, to have such a thing, because the church is even more so at prayer than on usual days. It's the start of the Easter Triduum, the 3 holiest days in the church's year. Holy Thursday or Maundy Thursday, Good Friday, and of course the holiest day, the Super Bowl of the church's year, which is the Easter Vigil Mass on Holy Saturday. So you'll have a lot of people praying for the sick, a lot of people praying for those in need, and I, of course, will continue to be praying for you and to pray for your wife as well. So I hope everything goes well. Thanatos Felicitas saying, hey, Odin, what's going on, Thanatos? Caveat Ty is saying, hey, what's up? Raichu, Mortal Kombat brings back memories. Mortal Kombat. Don't. So good. Caveat Ties. I gave Mortal Kombat Annihilation 100% on critic list. Why? I mean, look, it's hilarious. For the lulz, it's not a good movie. Man, oh man. Victor Fontaine, come fly with me. Come fly away. What's going on, Victor Fontaine? Hanging out over the Green Machine saying, and then there was Doom with The Rock back in 2005. Semper Fi, mother. That's all I remember from that movie. And then that one sequence where they actually go first-person shooter. It's like, what? That part was actually kind of cool. And then the rest of the film was there, and you're like, oh, never mind. Yeah, exactly. People even forget that that's technically a video game adaptation. You then also had another film with Dwayne The Rock Johnson called Rampage. That was supposedly a video game adaptation as well. Now, I don't know much about the original game it's based off of, and they took a lot of liberties so that most people probably wouldn't even consider it an adaptation. But yeah, it's happened. Icthulu 746 saying, no one thinks to consider that Hollywood caters to China to get reduced and favored pricing on manufactured goods. The movie getting 5% is probably inconsequential. 25%, I think, is what you meant to say. Yeah, they get 25% from the studios. They might get reduced pricing. Again, I haven't really done much research on that. So on certain materials, I guess. But I honestly don't think that aspect of it is going to have that much of an impact on them, right? It's already clear that even in their heyday, even when their films were making $100 million in China, they're still only getting $25 million of that. So the only thing it's doing is padding their numbers. It's not really helping them financially all that much, right? It's just really padding things out. But I can't imagine that they spend that much money in China for things that they actually use in their film. Unless we're talking, of course, about computer component. Like, again, if we're talking about like the technology, unless these companies have been so firmly established with studios, like actual direct studios with the computers and everything that you would need already, that's where you might be able to have that argument. Keely Chow, what's going on? Kimberly G. Killian Shadowcat, what's going on? Kimberly G at 747 saying, hello, everybody. I wish Glenn Powell would have been the new Johnny Cage. I love Carl Urban, but he doesn't give off Johnny Cage vibes. And also, just everything that I've always pictured with Johnny Cage is that he's a bit of a younger guy. Yeah, I agree. Carl Urban, he's a great actor, though. If anyone could pull it off and surprise you, it would be a Carl Urban type. So we'll see. That's like the one positive thing about this upcoming Mortal Kombat film. Keely Chow, as always, asking about how the family's doing. Everyone is doing swimmingly. Last I checked, both kids are asleep, so that's always a good thing. Thanatos saying, Wing Commander from 1999 was horrid. Yep. Again, there's been a lot of really bad ones. Remember Sci-Fi, Hollywood will have to get better at stories to appeal to an older video game audience. That's very true. Very, very true. And also, again, going back to there's no guaranteed audience, just because this specific Minecraft film happens to be successful also does not mean that every single young audience are mindless, right? Now, again, I think there's arguments to be made, and we could probably say, oh, you got to be pretty mindless to enjoy this drivel. But moving on from that point, I do still believe that there are enough younger audiences that would be able to sniff out a film that is just not good, right? Even for the lulz, not good. I think that they would still be able to do that, because if they weren't able to, there are so many other films that would have already done really well. There would have been already a lot more films that could have had this kind of success, but they didn't. Jimmy A. says here, I saw The Amateur this weekend. I would recommend it as an old-fashioned, suspenseful, unpretentious thriller. It's gotten pretty, decent reviews over on Criticlist, so it's definitely on my radar of things to maybe check out when it becomes available online. A Goat 1971, what's going on, a Goat? The first movie based on a video game that was actually passable as half-decent movie was Lara Croft Tomb Raider in 2001. Hey, that's a good shout. That's a good shout. Forgot to mention that one. Yes, that film did pretty well, enough for it to have gotten a sequel, which was not as well received, but still. And then they made the remake of it, which I didn't mind, because I think Alicia Vikander is a phenomenal actress, but it didn't make money. Short saying, Resident Evil was so game accurate, excellent movie. Oh, good shout. Almost forgot about those. Yeah. Boom, there it is. Yeah, Resident Evil, so successful was that film. They were able to make like 1,000 sequels. By the way, I own the entire Resident Evil franchise, and I actually enjoy all of them. because you know what you're getting with it. I mean, that's what I really like. All the backstory with the Umbrella Corporation, and the different areas. I just also, there was like a couple summers ago, I think now, people who follow the channel now might be able to pinpoint it better, but there was a time when I was going through this weird like zombie phase. So I had to watch everything zombie related. So it was like, I discovered Train to Busan. I think that's what got it started, because Train to Busan is not only a great zombie film, it's also a phenomenal movie. It's just so freaking good. So, I had Train to Busan, and then that led me down the 28 days later, 28 weeks later, etc. That franchise is great. Can't wait for the upcoming one this year. Then that led me to the Resident Evil franchise at some point, amongst others. There was also like a more like indie feeling movie, like The Girl with All the Gifts, I think is what it was called. Terrible name for a film, but the film was actually pretty good, because again, it had those good elements there of zombie stuff. But yeah, so that's when I got into Resident Evil and really enjoyed all the movies. And again, this is coming from not a gamer. I always stipulate that I am not a gamer, but I clearly enjoyed that film adaptation. And all of them, in fact. All right, we got a super chat that we got to get to. So Wayward Noodle, thank you very much for the $10 super chat, saying, sorry I'm late, work and such. Imagine people thinking I have to work to get paid. They even know what timeline we're in. See the new Tron trailer. Thoughts? If not, what do you have? Do you have a job and a family? Wayward Noodle, hope work has been treating you well, good sir. Indeed, there are many of us here who have real jobs, right? As I always say, I have a full-time job. I do this for fun, and it is a ton of fun. So thank you, Wayward Noodle. I really do appreciate that, man. Helps keep the lights on here. And I have not seen the new trailer yet. I know that it's been talked about before. I know that the Film Threat guys talked about it last week, especially. So it's on my radar of things to watch. But I've fallen behind on most trailers. Especially when I'm in the work mode during the year, as you all know, I fall off on things. Right? There's a giveaway right now. Someone won the giveaway. I have not shipped out the prize yet, but don't worry, I will. Okay. Someone won Pulp Fiction, the 4K 30th anniversary edition. It's coming to you. Don't worry, okay? Hopefully I can get it shipped out to you, and at least in the mail before Easter, so that way it gets to you sometime next week. And there's an open giveaway right now for a couple of films too. So anyway, I fall behind. People know this about me. The Members Podcast, right? I had to film that solo for last month because, again, I fall so far behind when I'm in school mode. So I'm actually kind of excited because it's kind of crazy. School is almost over for the year. School's almost out for summer, as the song goes. We're already midway through April. We've got Easter this week. When we get back from our Easter break, we then have about a few weeks really left before exams. It's crazy. But after Easter break, there's 10 class rotations left. That is crazy. That is crazy. All right, let's see. Short. The Mother Major General saying, my favorite part of Resident Evil was just like the game, you restore power only to unleash complete chaos. Yeah. It's so true. Cthulhu at 750 saying, use a column filter to select and delete. Takes about 5 seconds. You can also countif B1, sort by a highest and delete. I don't know what is that in reference to the music? Because if so, I do not understand the context of that, and I'm very, very confused. Oh, wait, hold on. You use... sorry, no. This is referring back to the... now I get it. Context is always key for me because I fall behind in the chat so often. This is going back to the ballot for the Raven Awards. It says, use a column filter to select and delete. Takes about 5 seconds. You could also countif B1, sort by highest and delete. No, trust me. There are ways of doing that. And again, that's not the issue. The issue is that it's annoying. And when I have to wake up the next day, and it was happening, like it happened 3 days in a row, where I would wake up and I'd have like 5,000 plus entries. And then here's the other issue too, is it's just a pain to have to, because eventually what they started doing was they started having like, 500 were of one ilk, and then they had it like on a rotation where every single one was something a little bit different too. So they got a little bit more clever with it. So it's just really annoying. So I think I know what you're saying there. Raichu saying here, Minecraft is relaxing to play. There it is too. Yeah, very relaxing, except when it's at night and you're playing on like a harder mode, and then you're surrounded by zombies and creepers and skeletons, things like that. Kimberly G saying, I like Minecraft. I befriend animals and make my own farm, zoo, etc. I play on peaceful. Nice. Yeah, that's how I would have played as well, most likely, because it's like I want some danger, but I'm also like, I also want to play the game too. Kenny Ramsky, thanks for the summary. Much appreciated. No problem at all, man. These people will be able to help you all too. Jimmy A saying, I'm not even a wrestling guy, but John Cena needs to stick with movies at this point, since the right ones actually suit him. I would argue he should just go away. He should just go and do his amazing work that he has done. The one thing I'll always give him credit for is his Make-A-Wish stuff. Okay, just do Make-A-Wish. Let that be your only thing. Kelly Chow, have you watched Ready to Rumble? Warner Brothers needs to do a sequel to that movie, with the sequel being an AEW movie. No, they don't. No, they do not, because AEW has fallen off the wagon quite a bit, and it would be way too late to do a sequel to that film. The film, though, Ready to Rumble, is fantastic. I love that movie. Hilarious. Most wrestling fans, it's like one of your go-to movies that you like. And for me, I love it. Forever Sci-Fi. Video game movies might have become bigger sooner had they not let Yui Bowl near so many of them. That's a good point. Rob D. Hello, Odin. Forgive me if you've already said your thoughts on this, but what are your thoughts on The King of Kings? I've mentioned it a bit I mentioned it in the box office breakdown this past Sunday, but I will give a more formal thought here. I still need to put my review, I believe, on Critic List. Right now, I'm at like, as far as the general rating goes, I'm at like a 50%. I'm at like a 5 out of 10, a 50 out of 100, a decent score over on Critic List. And it's because, whereas I do think the film is effective for teaching young single-digit aged kids kind of like a starting course on who Christ is, who Jesus is, and some basic elements of the story, there were enough things in there theologically, scripturally, problematic things, right? Just creative freedom taken, and also cheesy factor, like the cheese factor that's in every single, or it seems is in almost every single Christian movie of some kind, that to me took me out of it so much that I just could not enjoy it. For instance, you have an amazing voice cast, but some of them aren't doing voices. Some of them are just speaking as themselves. At one point you have Forrest Whitaker doing the voice of St. Peter. and all I can hear is Forrest Whitaker. And even though he's not doing the full-on accent that he had in the movie Phone Booth, in my head, every time I heard St. Peter talk in the film, all I could think of was he's talking like this. He's like a cop and everything. Like, all I could think of was his performance in in that movie. That's all I could think about. So it has that going for it, where it just takes me out of it because of some of the voice acting. There are some choices made, as I mentioned. At one point, they are literally shouting, "Death penalty! Death penalty!" And I'm just like, what? Why are they saying this? Why is the phrase and the two words "death penalty" being the ones that are being said by this crowd? That does not make any sense. That's not what the crowd would have actually have said. It was just really silly. It was really silly. So, as I said, I do think there's some positives in that if you're looking for a movie to introduce your kids to during Easter, that's child appropriate for the single-digit age kids, that has a little bit of the darker stuff in it too, right? Then this might be a good introduction. But other and outside of that case, I can't really recommend it. I'm going to be honest. And again, shout out to Angel Studios. They send me screeners for these, and luckily allow, they don't pressure me in any way or anything like that to give positive reviews. I always give my honest opinions and thoughts on their films. I just don't think that they've been on a good roll recently. Films that I was very excited for. Homestead, I thought had a lot of potential. Got way too cheesy religious towards the end and really fell off quite a bit. And then it was like, hey, watch our series. And I'm like, no, thank you. I don't want to. Bonhoeffer was one of my most anticipated films of the year last year. And that movie, same thing. Did a lot of historical changes that were completely unnecessary and ultimately was just lacking soul. It was lacking heart. It just was boring. It really just did not move the needle. And I think this is arguably the best thing that Angel Studios has done recently. But remember, Angel Studios is the distributor, right? They're the ones that get the rights to distribute these things. They don't, generally speaking, they don't actively make or have a hand in making a lot of the content that they put out there. This is by far the best thing that they have put out there, though. But even then, it's still, to me, in that 50% range, in that decent range. Anyway, Hardwick at 754 saying, probably the best video game movie is Prince of Persia: Sands of Time. I rewatched it a few years ago and found it vastly better than I had remembered it being. Not amazing, but really solid. That's interesting. Yeah, because no one was saying that when the film came out. I don't remember that film being well received. Jimmy A says, I think on Suno you can use a sample of your own voice, but it may be on premium mode. Yeah. I know that you can do like voice cloning, I believe, with that. But yeah, all that stuff, typically, if you want the best, like I want to figure out a way to like somehow host my own AI that could then clone the voice and then do it that way. But let's see. Cthulhu is saying they are lying, won't hold up in court. AI is always public domain, but just use another service. I don't know of another service that's going to produce the same thing. I like the music and the songs that they have produced. That's the issue. If there's another service that doesn't do that. And here's the thing. Just because it won't hold up in court now doesn't mean that it won't at some point. All that says to me, Cthulhu, is like, okay, so there's not been enough litigation brought against it, and at some point there will be precedents brought. Because, again, I could totally see an ownership claim. Because, yes, it is AI generated, but it is, again, from the servers hosted by said persons. And because I am using it as a user, I agree to their terms and conditions, and their terms and conditions specify, hey, you can't use this for commercial use. And I'm not trying to sell the songs or anything like that. Like in my mind, when I think commercial use, I think, oh, I'm making money off of it in some way. But it's like, if I'm just going to be using it as like a theme, maybe like to start the show or something, I don't see how that, personally, I don't see how that does. But again, I'm not one to bend the rules all that much. See, Shorty Short saying, I'll be so happy when Lent is over because my already grumpy coworker gave up coffee for Lent. Ooh, man. But that's good, right? Coffee is addicting. As the Riddler once said in probably one of the best films of all time, Batman Forever, caffeine will kill you. Great line. Great film. Not as good as, oh no, it's boiling acid. My favorite line of any movie. Still haunts me to this day. Hardwick saying here, there's another AI music generator called Udio. The last time I tried it, it creates much better sounding music than Suno, but is harder to control. There's a lot there. There's a lot to unpack with that. Does that just mean it's harder to use? The quality is better, but it's harder to use. It's not like a simple prompt. Because part of the reason why I like Suno is because of the ease of someone like myself who's just not very creative in that regard. All right, let's see. Gary Banjo Sandwich Worthington, what's going on? Hail to you. Thanks for being here. La 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 la. Let's see. Shorty Short saying, Princess Problems still wasn't as bad as that horrendous Squawk song. Yeah. Oh, thanks for reminding me of that. Yeah, I forgot. Who was it on here that said Princess Problems was the worst thing they'd ever heard and was somehow better than the Squawk song from Little Mermaid? Because I'm sorry, it was not. I'm not saying the song was good or that it was well written, because it's not, all right? The music is terrible. However, it's not painful. The Squawk song is actually physically painful to listen to. It actually can make your eardrums bleed. Like, it's not just the metaphorical, oh, my eardrums are bleeding, this is so bad. No, it can actually make them bleed because of how harsh it is. Carl Jacobs, you are stereotyping country music. Try Don Williams, Good Old Boys Like Me. You are from the South. That song is like a Southern anthem. Carl Jacobs, were you here last week for our discussion? Right? Because I was stereotyping modern country music, and it was spot on, according to many. Is Don Williams a modern artist or not? Hardwick, it's so hard to believe that something as generic as a Minecraft movie is directed by Jared Hess, who made Napoleon Dynamite, Nacho Libre, and Gentlemen Broncos. Yes. Kind of an odd choice, but that's what Hollywood tends to do. They tend to take these indie directors and give them a bunch of money, and then this is what we get. And this happened to be a very lucky circumstance because it turns out, hey, the kids actually like this one. Not a guarantee. Short saying, I feel like General Wingster should have given up his boobs during the holy time. I agree. I think General Wingster should absolutely have been much more modest with his profile pictures. That is, I think, a fact. Get over here. Such a good line. Such a great film. For sci-fi, I used to love playing... He's a member here. I used to love playing Rampage. I hated what they did in that movie. The one thing I remember from that film is The Rock yelling, George! Gary Banjo Sandwich. Hello there. Hello there. Caveat ties, the review will convince anyone. Will it now? Hardwick, to me, the modern pickup trucks and beer country music isn't real country music. If you're ever interested in finding some real high-quality country music, I have a bunch of recommendations. No, I'm not really interested. I'm going to be honest. It's just not my bag, baby. Jimmy A. I miss the days back when The Rock's movies were fun. Now they're just generic corporate schlop. Agreed. Geek Truth, 64. One of the saddest... Thanks for being here, bro. Thanks for being a member. One of the saddest country songs ever is I Drive Your Truck, about a man driving his brother's truck after he was killed in action. Being in the military, I felt that good country hits hard. Again, I'm not going to try to take... I'll never try to take anyone's enjoyment of music away, especially ones that make you feel something, right? That's the kind of music that we, tend to enjoy the most, right? It's because we feel something for certain reasons. That's why my music taste is so broad, though, because for me, I care... The thing that moves, I guess, quote, moves me is less lyric-based and more tone and musicality, musical notes, things like that. Because there's some songs where it's like the lyrics are actually like terrible, or they mention things that I don't support, right? Or there's like implications where it's like, I don't know about that. Not very Christian, but it's again, the music itself that I actually enjoy. So, again, I'm more moved by that in that way. Short saying, oh man, the Rampage movie, forgot about that one. Of course the giant wolf could fly. Such a great one-liner. Yeah, it was the same time where you had Rampage and then you had Skyscraper. Rampage was actually fun, Laura, right? I remember Rampage. It was terrible, but it was actually a fun movie to watch. It was so bad, it was funny. But then you also had Skyscraper, and it was just stupid. It was awful. Like, one of the points is that The Rock character like lost part of his leg, and so he had like a fake leg or something. He was like a fake foot, or it was like up to his ankle or something. And it was a plot point. I'm like, what is this? The Rock can't play that. He's not that talented. Rob D. And if the 2020s are going to be the decade of video game films, then I want Need for Speed 2, Call of Duty Civil War, and Driver. Could you imagine if they really did a honest attempt at like a COD, like a Call of Duty game? Dude, if they did that and did that effectively. Apparently Warfare is phenomenal, by the way. I've seen some clips online and it looks really intense. So, General Wingster, we all know that Last of Us Season 2 will be the bestest ever. Yeah, I've seen the clips already going around. It's like, yeah, of course you're keeping the most cringe elements of the sequel game. Why wouldn't you? Oh, man. Wayward Noodle. Thank you again for that super chat. Appreciate it. King and Remsky at 807 saying, personal question. Do you have a cutoff? Just won't do it when regarding a movie ticket price. So that's actually an easy question because I have AMC A-List. So AMC A-List, it's currently $21, $22 a month. I don't use it nearly as much as I should. I always make up anything I lose in the year. I always make up over the summer, though. So that's how I justify it. But AMC A-List is great because you can see up to 4, right now you can see up to 3 movies every single week. Doesn't matter what the film is. I think the only exceptions are like the Fathom events, any specialty things like that. But I can see it in IMAX. I could see it in Dolby. Doesn't matter the format as long as it's at an AMC theater. I could see the same movie 3 times, 3 different films. They're about to change it to 4 movies a week. They're going to up the price a little bit too. But there's also a lot of other perks with it that I think are going to be well worth it also. And it's not a huge price increase either. But yeah, typically if I have to pay, like the rare circumstance where I have to go to like a random theater for this like an independent movie, I haven't had to do that in a long, long time though. I mean, back then, $10, $15 would probably be my max. But, the world's very different today. Geek364 saying, I remember talking with Carl Urban at a con about a potential Dread series, which was rumored for a while. Yeah, apparently it's like a rights issue, I think, at this point. So that's why people are saying, like, a lot of the players are, like, willing, but because of the people that control the IP, it'll never happen, or something to that effect. Dingle, what's up? Geek364, I actually liked the Prince of Persia movie. As far as video games, movies, I thought it was top tier. I guess that isn't saying much. Oh, yeah, again, as someone who's only seen clips of it, I actually probably saw that movie in theaters because I was seeing everything back then. It was just not very memorable, and I did not play the games. So, again, if you're a player of the games and you think it's a good adaptation, then obviously I'll take your word for it. But, yeah. Short, I only played the first Resident Evil game on PS2, but it was a fantastic game. You start in the middle of the street surrounded by zombies with no idea what to do. Dang! And that would terrify me. Because that's my nightmare. Wendy Hunter saying, I was just thinking about how fast the year has flown by. Seriously, this school year has flown by. This semester especially has flown by. Like the fact that we're already a couple weeks out from May. It's gonna be May, and we're gonna be that much closer to summer. Summer schedule will be coming back at that point too. So we're just about a month out, really, from summer schedule. That's pretty exciting. So really the only difference is that we do, I think last year I was able to make it once a week. We do a morning show. Either once or twice a week a morning show. I think I at one point was doing a lot more, like during the summer streams, but I'm like, look, I need a lot more time in the mornings to watch movies. Last year, I was watching a lot of, was DS9 last year? No, that was the year before. So I try to watch a lot of movies. I make rosaries while I watch them, so I'm not just sitting around doing nothing all day. I want to watch stuff to catch up with stuff. And this summer, one of the things I'm going to work on is trying to get through the entire Star Trek original series, because I'm already through, 14, maybe half of season. I forget exactly how many, but like half of season 1 of the original Star Trek series. So catching on that, on movies, going out to see movies, right? Because summer, especially with if films like Minecraft, the one positive thing is that if more films end up performing like that down the line, I don't really see a whole lot of potential down the line, but you never know. That would also mean earlier showtimes, which helps me out because it means I could see more films in a day. I could see potentially 2 films. I haven't done a 2-film watch in a long time up here because the market's not just, it's a very bad market for movies up here, unfortunately. Not a lot of people going to see them. But, yeah, it has flown by. But, yeah, summer schedule will be coming up. So I think we'll probably do whatever we did last summer, which I think was once a week in the mornings. Let's see. Cthulhu Tensei, that was for the spam. Yeah, I figured that out. I figured it out. He figured it out. Key264 saying, I love Tron Legacy, but Ares seems to be ditching the plot from Legacy. Pretty disappointing. I have worries over Ares' plot, but the trailer looked visually interesting. Okay. I mean, that seems like what would be the case, though, right? Because Tron is, at least for Tron Legacy, it was much more of a visual feast than it was anything else plot-wise. So maybe that's what they're going for. Keely Chow, even early. Hail to you. Carl Jacobs saying, put off King of Kings by the animation, to be honest. I haven't seen a good movie about the life of Christ since Zeffirelli's Jesus of Nazareth. Does that happen to be the claymation? That might be the Wonder Worker or the Miracle Worker. There's a claymation that is hilarious. It's just so good. Because of the way that the characters walk, it's just really funny. My favorite part of that, whatever the claymation Jesus movie is you have this situation where Jesus is getting crowded into a boat, and it's Peter's boat. And Peter's reaction to him stepping into his boat is just the funniest thing. It's kind of like what's this? What is this? What are you doing? I would recommend the wrestling movie, The One and Only, 1978, with Henry Winkler and directed by Carl Reiner. What? I'd never heard of this before. I will write that down. Let's see. That was the AI Music app, and then The One and Only, 1978. I mean, there's a lot of great wrestling films. Ready to Rumble is just a funny one. The Wrestler, I do actually like. It was Aronofsky who did The Wrestler. And then more recently, Iron Claw. Iron Claw is probably my favorite wrestling film. Wendy Hunter, that is disappointing to hear about King of Kings. Yeah, again, I think a lot of people are going to enjoy it. There's been a lot of positive praise towards it. So again, I can't take that away from people. But to me, it's just, I'm sorry. Like, for me at least, as an adult, nothing holds a candle to the Passion of the Christ, and nothing I don't think ever will until the sequel comes out, right? Because almost every Christian film, almost all of them, right? There's exceptions, obviously. Prince of Egypt, I would put out there, right? Older religious films like Song of Bernadette and Ten Commandments, right? All the modern stuff, especially ones, and I hate to say it this way, but again, they tend to make the most Christian movies, but especially a lot of the Protestant Christian movies, they just tend to be way too cheesy. Way too cheesy. And if it's something that even I as a Christian cannot take seriously and cannot enjoy because of that, why and how would anyone who's maybe not in that world find enjoyment in it? Arnold, hey, will there be a live stream next Monday? Again, depends on when I get back from New Orleans. So stay tuned. Arnold, hey, how do you see Minecraft? Will it cross $1 billion? Snow White, will it even cross $200 million? Arnold, hey, just putting off a bunch of questions here. Calm down, man. Calm down. Did you get your seats for Revenge of the Sith? I am not seeing that in theaters. I am not a prequel defender. I think Revenge of the Sith is by far the best of the prequel films, but even that one, I find them entertaining. I find them funny. I don't find them good, personally. I love the original trilogy. All right, those films still hold up in many ways, even the third one. Okay, and I know people are gonna be like, oh, the numbers, but even Return of the Jedi, I really enjoy that movie. I think that the plot and the character arcs and how they end and how they reach their conclusions are just so good. But Revenge of the Sith is one that I just laugh at. You underestimate my power. I can't take his line delivery seriously. I really can't. It's bad. It's really, really bad. But in a funny way. So I enjoy them. But no, I'm not going to go see that in theaters. I just, again, not what I want to do, and I just don't have the time. When it comes to those special releases, too, they tend to always be at, like, the worst time to where I just would not be able to make that work with my kid's schedule. So now getting to your question before, because some people are like, it's been an hour and you haven't talked at all about Minecraft. We came from Minecraft. Well, I have talked about it a little bit, right? But it was in different context here. So we're talking now about some box office numbers here, and so you know what that means. All right, it's time just to take a moment, catch your breath, and just realize and admit to the truth. Okay, because you are about to bear witness to something special.
Time to see a real math magician at work.
That's right, everybody. It's time to see a real math magician at work. Looking over at thenumbers.com, starting things off first, it appears that the film, though it did not have nearly as strong of a domestic second weekend, it still made, right, a good $78 million. So that's pretty darn good. It apparently did a little bit better, or at least some other numbers were able to come in for the internationals. So it has made $552 million worldwide after only 2 weeks of release. As you can see, most films with an opening weekend that it had typically average between 357 and 267. So this film's still at the bottom track. Okay, so I think right now, what this indicates to me is that the film is not going to be the biggest domestic opening, or the biggest domestic box office of all time. I don't think it's going to be able to catch a film like the Super Mario Brothers movie either, okay? But let's go ahead and put that up against the Super Mario Brothers movie, because obviously it is a film that has been brought up in comparison to it, okay? And since someone brought up Disney Snow White, we'll throw that into the mix as well for fun, okay? So first, as of right now, it is Snow White. Let's get that one out of the way because that one's faster. $182 million is where it currently is. Will it actually get to $200 million worldwide? For me, the fact that it only made $2 million this weekend domestically, and I don't even know how much internationally, probably barely anything, it'll be very hard for that film to get anywhere past $200 million. However, I would never bet against Disney for trying to push and pressure through whatever means necessary that film to get to that mark. And again, there are conspiracy theorists out there that will try and say, they're going to buy tickets and blah, 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 blah. It's like, no. They will just force theaters to have so many showings of their movie that no one's going to see, but because of visibility alone, surface area, right? If you have got more area to run into, well, then guess what? You're going to have more things run into it. Same thing with showtimes. If you have a bunch of showtimes, then guess what? Chances are that you'll have more opportunities for people to actually see your movie. Does not mean that that movie is going to fill up. Does not mean that that movie is going to do that much better down the line, but every single ticket really matters when it comes to a film like this. So right now, my gut says, based on the tracking, it does not seem likely. All right, tracking-wise, historically, there's no reason to think it will hit a $200 million number. However, can't say that Disney might not try something, again, to will the film to that $200 million mark. And again, not saying it's going to happen, but just never, never say never, as they say. All right, going to the battle between Super Mario Brothers movie and Minecraft, it's really not much of a battle, right? At the same point of release, Super Mario Brothers had already $365 million worth of domestic box office. A big part of that is also about release date, right? Super Mario Brothers movie had a very similar release date, right? Same exact weekend, but was able to also leg out so much into the summer that it was able to really build that number up. Now, again, Minecraft, I think, will leg out quite a bit too. But based on the current tracking, again, we can see this. Same exact, actually, I had actually forgotten it had the same weekend release. Again, I think one difference there is back in 2023, I believe that was Easter weekend of that weekend, whereas Minecraft opened up the weekend, a few weekends rather before Easter. So Minecraft is going to do well over this week, right? Over this Easter, or rather this Holy Week into next week of Easter and the entire season of Easter, right? So it's gonna start doing better in its daily numbers. I just don't really think, though, it's gonna be doing as well as the film. Now, again, we'll have to wait and see. As you can see, right, in the week, during the actual week itself, 9 to 20 million, 12 to 15, 7 to 11. Again, that is during that is of course during the week after Easter, right? So there is some spring breaks going on at that time. So maybe we'll start to see these numbers shift, right? Maybe we might see the film Minecraft start to actually do much better on the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, right? But that won't be until next week. So because of the delay, right? Basically because of how far removed it is from Easter this year, it's not going to receive as much of a benefit as it could have had the film actually released closer to Easter. So actually, had the film released closer to Easter, I think you might have actually seen some, closer numbers between this and Super Mario Brothers movie. That all being said, what is this film likely going to make? I think $1 billion is absolutely on the table. Keep in mind, most films after their second week of release, right, make usually an additional, I guess you could say 30% or double their box office, right? So normally the first 2 weeks either account for 70% of their entire box office or for about 50%. Again, that's a range there. And that's where most films perform on average, all right? That is the average range. This film, Minecraft, has not been performing as an average movie, okay? So because of that, I think there's a higher than likely chance this movie gets to $1 billion. In a worst case scenario, I think it gets to the absolute average, which would be $947 million based off of its second weekend of release. However, we are going into a holiday. We are going into a time when kids are going to be much more readily available. And so we could see some massive increases in the overall box office, right? As we can go down our chart right here, this film has already made its profit, a $150 million film. It's already made tens of millions of dollars in those net gain profits there. Compared to its opening weekend, it's at 1.76. So it's already starting to trend towards where you would want to see a film end up being. Now, again, it's still way too early to say, and we obviously have a lot more box office to consider, but this is a very good spot for it to be in, right? $300 million. Globally, that means that it had about a 50-ish% drop. Not just domestically, but globally too, right? Internationally too. So those are pretty good holds. Now, you probably want to see a little bit of a better hold there internationally down the line. So we'll see if that is actually able to come about or not. Based on the current tracking, based on where it currently is, and the general sentiment from the audiences out there, there's very little reason for me to suspect that Minecraft will not be able to get to that number. And again, I would say it's much more likely than not to get to $1 billion. Now, it's still not going to, though, get to the $1.4 billion of the Super Mario Brothers movie, all right? It's not making the same amount of money either domestically or internationally to do that, right? It made up to $810 million, the Super Mario Brothers movie, 810. This also had a delayed release in some places, right? So if we can pull up this this chart here, because we love these charts here, of course, on the channel. By the way, I'm able to get that into the AI songs, which is hilarious as well. But if you remember, right, a lot of the countries did see it pretty much right away, right, on that same weekend. But you had a delayed release in Egypt, which didn't make much of a difference, right? Very little box office there. But there was a delayed in Japan, right? It opened the 28th of April at that point, and overall ended up making so roughly $100 million in Japan. So, which is actually a lot less than what you would expect for a film with a character who's as popular as Mario in Japan, right? That was one of the points that I was making back at that time. So that was a huge factor, right? Is that down the line, it had $100 million that was still waiting to be made. That's not likely going to be the case, right? There's some other films here too. South Korea had a delayed release, only made $18 million in South Korea. Some people were like, oh man, South Korea's going to eat that up. And it's like, no, it didn't. And I remember predicting at that time saying, no, there's nothing to indicate, right? Western films just do not perform as well in those markets. And it doesn't matter if Nintendo is attached to a film like Mario. The fact is that it is perceived as and is promoted as a Western film, right? A Westernized version. Let's look at the Minecraft movie, okay? So again, it's doing really well. That's why I still think $1 billion, I think, absolutely is on the table. The only thing really going against it, right, is that it doesn't have much as far as delayed releases. Now, it does have a delayed release in Japan. It does not get out in Japan until the 25th. So could we see it actually do $100 million in Japan? That's going to be an interesting comparison. Will Minecraft do as well or better than Super Mario Brothers did back in 2023? I have some doubts about that. I don't know Japan's market. I don't know if Japan is as big into Minecraft as they are into some of the other games, like, of course, the Mario and pretty much anything Nintendo related. So that's pretty much an unknown factor, right? China, it's doing really well in China, but it's not blowing the socks off of China, right? So is it going to get to $100 million in China? Based off of this rate, I would say It might, but it's definitely not going to be, the biggest thing ever from that market. And also, the bigger that your number is from China, the worse it actually is off for you, because that actually cuts into your profits. But it doesn't look like China is going to be running up the score for this movie. It does have some delayed releases in Austria, not a huge box office there. Japan, which could have one. And South Korea, which I had shown previously, had almost no actual, sensible impact in any way on the final box office for Super Mario Brothers movie. The point of all this is to say, right, the internationals are not going to be able to match what we saw for the last film, right? What we saw for the Super Mario Brothers movie. So because of that, $1 billion, I think, is all but guaranteed. It's not going to be able to beat Super Mario Brothers, though. It's not going to get to $1.4 billion. There's some people out there that are like, oh yeah, it's going to do better in every way. It's just not going to happen, guys. I'm sorry. Right? I hate to burst people's bubbles here, but look, take the win. It's doing well. It's made its money back already, as you can see, even over here, 3.7 times its budget. You need to make roughly 2.5 to 3 times your budget today. Easily makes its money back. Easily adds more profits. Easily will make probably a couple $100 million at least in net profits. And I do think also we'll get to $1 billion as well. Anyway, that is Minecraft. All right, let's get through some last comments. Hey, guys. Exactly. Arnold, hey. The new Harry Potter series will crash. Really, again, it depends. My wife is a huge fan of the books, and I don't think she's too excited for the casting. However, she's not bothered by it necessarily either. She is the kind of person that would be completely willing to give it a chance. Because, hey, if the actor ends up being good and captures the spirit of that character, then my wife's the kind of person that could look past that kind of thing. Again, it becomes a bit more difficult when your character is literally described in the book through a very specific lens, and then you also have that character going through certain things that, as a black man, is going to mean a lot different things than as a paisley white ghoulish character, right? There's going to be a little bit of a different meaning behind the bullying of a certain young Potter, right? Of Harry's dad. So, man. Arnold, hey, did you watch Daredevil? What did you think? What did you think, or both worth it? I'm very confused by you mean the show? So the most recent iteration of the show is not worth it. I don't think the most recent episode has gone out yet. Correct me if I'm wrong. But last week's episode, ever since they really started, from the first 15 minutes, they were like, yeah, we don't care what fans want. Because they were like, oh, all that stuff in the promotional material and all that stuff that we were getting you excited for, oh, yeah, it's gone. Bye-bye. And then they have some natural stuff they set up for the show, like this character Muse, and they're like, oh, this is a really interesting character, a really interesting villain. Gone. Every single thing. And what do we get instead? Oh, we get whole episodes focused for a huge proportion on, Kingpin's in therapy. Kingpin's crying. Kingpin. Oh, Kingpin. Kingpin is dancing. Oh, look at him. He's dancing. He's having a good time. Just what everyone wants to see, right? It's atrocious. Hardwick, the best way I could describe it is Udio tends to take more tries to get something that matches what you're looking for. Tends to have better audio quality than Suno, though. It doesn't sound like it's really worth it. Cthulhu, best thing to do is ask Midnight's Edge Tom for help with AI music. He's got that down pat. Also said Princess Problems was worse. Yeah, Cthulhu, and you were wrong. You were wrong. I'm sorry, bro. You cannot objectively say, I'm going to use that word, man, objectively say that the is in any way better than Princess Problems. Again, Princess Problems is annoying. It's not good, but painfully bad? No. Nothing can hurt the ears more than a what? I'm sorry. But yes, Tom was the one that actually recommended to me the Suno. So I'll have to reach out to him again. Arnold, hey, what are your thoughts on the tariff on the effect of China that they will ban Hollywood movies? It's not going to impact Hollywood really in any way. The films that they've released in China, we talked about this actually on the Salty Saturday podcast. So check out the Salty Saturday podcast, Salty Nerd channel. It's a fun Saturday show that I'm on every week, 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern time. And the point I made was, and thanks to Grok, my AI friend, for helping me do some research. But if you look back to the past like 5 years, especially ever since COVID, what you find is that only I think 2 or 3 movies have actually made $100 million in China. So the last thing we heard is that China said, oh, well, we're thinking about banning, but for now, we're at least going to restrict how many they have. They only had 38 American films released in China back in 2024. Of the films in 2024, only 2 or 3 of them actually made $100 million. Of the 38 total films, only about 15 of them made over $30 million in China. When you remember you only get 25% of that, guess what? They did nothing in China. So China has clearly moved on from them. They've clearly also moved on from China as well, because their films just have not been doing as well. And therefore, I think it'd be in their best interest to just kind of, kick China to the curb. Arnold, hey, are you turned off by what Fantastic Four has been representing? The actress Kirby says there's gender politics in the film. Yep. They're destroying any hype that may have been there for this film. They are making it so that Fantastic Four might actually be one of the lowest box offices of this summer. And again, I say that in comparison to Jurassic World, to Thunderbolts even as well. And by the way, going back to China, the one thing that the China tariffs could impact would actually be the box office for Jurassic World. Jurassic movies in general do gangbusters in China. So that's the one thing. But because the trend, even for the more successful films, has still been really low, like $100 million is still nothing compared to some of the biggest films we've ever seen in China. It probably won't change much. Jimmy A, I'm hoping China bans Hollywood movies so Avatar 3 might make less than $2 billion. Oh, dude, I would be so happy. But as I said, they're already saying that they'll probably have a limited one. That's actually in their interest to keep Avatar. I don't think that they would get rid of Avatar. I just don't see that happening. Let's see, Arnold. Hey, another question. Man, dude, bro, chill. Again, I know it said open forum, man, but it was meant to be more so Holy Week open forum. And that still means, like, give me time to breathe. Let's see. Thunderbolt tracking over $70 million. Will it pass this? It depends. If it's good, then yes. If it's not, then it won't. I'll have to try to shorten these answers. Victor Fontaine, you made me go look up the Oh No It's Boiling Acid line on YouTube. I forgot how bad that was. Yeah, because you can't do that on Rumble. I'm sorry. I love what Rumble's doing. And I will always multi-stream there too to give people an alternative, of course. But it's because you can't even do something as simple as that. I'm sorry. I don't think it's ever going to be able to replace it. It's not going to be able to do so. Again, it's a great alternative. It's a great place to go if your channel on YouTube gets shut down, no doubt about it. But that's all it's ever going to be. It's going to be a secondary thing. I know the people who are the most vocal about making it their primary source are also the ones that have been handpicked by Rumble. The ones who have been given the deals and everything like that. I'm just, again, sorry. Anyway, but yes, by bad, you mean so good. Arnold, hey, Thunderbolt's tracking over. You posted that twice. Please don't do that, especially if we're going to ask those many questions. Arnold, hey, your thoughts on March 2025 being the worst box office of all time? When you adjust for inflation, hard to say whether it's the worst of all time, but still pretty bad. Not surprising at all because the movies were crap. I want the trash talk from COD. Yeah, imagine if they are somehow able to get the lobby conversation in the film somehow. Jimmy A, the worst part of Skyscraper is the fact that they expect me to believe a 300-pound man can climb a building with duct tape when Tom Cruise could barely do it with high-tech spy gloves. That's a great point. It's been so long since I've seen it. Guy, what's up, Guy? Posted something twice. Again, if you have a small mistake, just leave as it is. It says here, how much do you think the next 2 Avengers films will make? Do you think both films will hit $2 billion or will it be under? I think the first film will hit $1 billion. That's about as much as I can say. It's too early at this point. But with the amount of money they're putting into this thing, even at $1 billion, it's still going to lose money. Because there's no way that film's going to cost under $400 or $500 million. They're already spending like $80 million on at least for both films. Or actually, no, sorry. They're already spending $80 million for the 2 films just for the directors. You're spending probably at least $100 million just for the one actor, Robert Downey Jr. So that's 50. Again, we don't know the official numbers yet, but they said it's a lot more than what the Russos were getting, which was $40 million per film. So you're already talking about for a film itself costing probably over $100 million for each individual film just for 3 people. That's before you filmed anything. That's before any of the other cast comes into it. You're probably spending at that rate, you're spending at least $250 million on your cast. And then you're making the movie. So that film is going to cost so much money, even $1 billion, it's going to lose. And I think it will. With that kind of a cast, the member berries clearly are what they're going for. And there are enough normies out there that love the member berries. Just go ahead and look at Spider-Man No Way Home. I think it's actually a fun film too. But member berries are very powerful. Hardwick, would you be interested in music recommendations in other genres? I know a bunch of great music made types. Not really. Again, as random as my music taste is, I'm not really huge into music. I like what I like. I typically don't search out new music. Jimmy A, have you seen the trailer for Naked Gun remake of Liam Neeson? I have. I was skeptical when I heard the idea, but the trailer killed me, especially the joke at the end. Oh, yeah. Even at the very beginning, it got me. When it's like little girl, and then all of a sudden it turns into Liam Neeson in the dress. You're like, what? Oh, so funny. Carl Jacobs, yes, I was here last week. Good Old Boys Like Me was released 1979. Ah, okay, gotcha. Yeah, I mean, again, that sounds old school classic. Modern stuff, though, is all about my pickup truck. Hardware, the Prince of Persia movie is very similar in style and tone to the first POTC movie and the first Mummy movie. It's not as good as those, but maybe about 65-70% as good. Gotcha. Wayward Noodle, probably before your time. I'm Gary Old. My dude was Jimmy the Superfly Snuka. I know Jimmy the Superfly Snuka. Again, it was before my time. I didn't get to really watch him wrestle much, but he was around at that point. My allegiance is to the Republic, to democracy. Yes. Oh, that's the stuff. Math. I hate you. Oh, so funny. Victor Fontaine just saw this headline. Toho greenlights sequel to Godzilla -1 with Takashi Yamazaki returning to write, direct, and lead VFX. Boom! I'm on board already. Okay, Remsky. I always laugh at that math meme when I look at the woman next to the mathematician like going on. Yeah, seriously, she's like, I know exactly what you're talking about. No. Cthulhu. No one Disney. Huh, we only lost $30 million from Snow White. Take that, peasants. Exactly. Jimmy A. Snow White's probably just making money from teens who want to kiss in an empty theater. Baby. Geek64 saying, completely agree with Odin on Christian movies. They prioritize preaching over story, really only speaking to their own audience. Unfortunately, I did not think I Can Only Imagine was pretty good, though. Yeah, I mean, there have been exceptions. There have been films that have broken through, but even the ones that are better, they have that aura about them. I don't know. Geek64 also says, that's true. I forgot about American Underdog. I really like that one, too. I have that one. I have not had a chance to watch it. Guillermo Gage, what are your thoughts about F1, the upcoming movie? It looks great. Looks fancy, upscale, car racing, action, Top Gun Maverick with race cars. That's what it looks like, dude. Same people behind it as well. I love the director behind it. There's a lot of things going for it that I'm excited for. So, yes. Harriet Potter. Jimmy A. I haven't even watched the Daredevil show, but to me it sounds like Kingpin is a bit of a beta male. Yeah, just a bit. Gee, in Season 2, Daredevil could be better since Season 1 had to have rewrites. Bro, no, don't. Please, that's the most copium answer ever. It's like, well, Season 2 could be better. No. I'm sorry. Your first 15 minutes made me want to turn the entire show off. That's not a good start, and it hasn't gotten better. And anything that did get better got immediately crapped on. Jimmy A. Kind of sucks to hear Fantastic Four will be woke. Vanessa Kirby is an attractive woman. Here's the thing. I don't really think it's necessarily going to be like full on woke. This is just actors being stupid. And so I think that she and the cast are going to torpedo their film, and their film probably will have like very minor stuff. General Wingster, when do we get Never? Never. How dare you? Arnold, hey. Thanks for answering all my questions. I'm still new to your channel. I'm going to buy you a t-shirt for the gym. Boom! Well, thank you, man. I appreciate that. And what are you trying to say, huh? Are you trying to say I'm fat? How dare you, Arnold? How dare you ask me all those questions and then say I need a shirt for the gym? How do I look like to you? Justin C., thanks for tagging. Dinosaurs equals box office success in China. Interesting. I don't know why, but look it up. Cthulhu, boo. Sarah Jaras, Civil Wars, Ben Howard. There's tons of amazing new country music. Just try our Sean James. One song will sell you on new music. Pickup truck. No, thank you. Jimmy A., have you seen any Christian movies that don't have the cheesy feel? For me, Jesus Revolution was the only one. It was just very heartfelt and genuine. It has very, very heartfelt and genuine. I agree. It still did have that cheese, though. The only one I can think of right now of the last, 20, 30 years, Passion of the Christ by Mel Gibson. It is just such a powerful film. It's just a great film. Jimmy A., Marvel actors are good at making political movies seem woke. Simu Liu played Shang-Chi up like it would have been some woke fest, and it was like the least political thing ever. Yeah, exactly. The actors themselves honestly just need to be, they need to have gags, right? They have gags in their contracts to be like, no, don't talk. Please don't. Please don't talk, and please don't promote anything because you're not helping us. If this is you helping, I don't want to see you hurting. It's seriously the way it should be. Gages before saying, have to go. Finishing up tomorrow's video on Lionsgate. Have it going. Boom. Okay, nice. Very excited. Hopefully it's good news because let's be honest, Lionsgate's steelbooks have been phenomenal, and I don't want them to go away. By the way, this Shaun of the Dead steelbook is just, I love it. I know we talked about it last week, and sadly they're not going to have the same design for Hot Fuzz, but I love it anyway. And then Arnold Hay, and we'll try to wrap up here, saying, any chance you'll be at the Vegas meetup? No chance. I'm going to be there and meet the team. Hope to see you there. Arnold Hay, I hope that you have a ton of fun over in Vegas. But I'm sorry, man, it's Holy Week, okay? So for one, I have a full-time job. So I cannot just take off work to do other things in general. It's not being a good employee. And even though it could be fun, it's just, again, that's one part of it. Secondly, I got a family with young kids. So to leave them for that length of time, even driving for the Dallas trip is a tough one over the summer. That's why I don't always get to do that one. The Orlando one is really the only trip that I can do in a very sensible way. There is also typically a very small meetup. It's not Geeks and Gamers related, though. It's with like Valiant Renegade and WW Pro and a lot of like really awesome content creators. The Force Light Entertainment ladies. We went up to, was it Knoxville? There is a con up in Knoxville that we were able to go to, and it was a ton of fun. And we're doing that again this year. So that's like over the summer, though. So those are the only ones that I can really do because of work and family. So yeah, no chance of that and so you add all those factors, and then the meetup's on Holy Thursday, the start of the Easter Triduum. So it's like, bro, Easter weekend. Really, guys? Easter weekend. Come on, guys. Come on, guys. But I hope everyone who goes has a lot of fun, but also remembers the reason for the season. For sci-fi, all the companies I've worked at last 10 years or so have training on what you can and can't say on social media. How has Hollywood not done that? Your guess is as good as mine, dude. Cthulhu, thank you for a great show. Wish you happy Holy Week. Also, repent for your sins for ignoring modern dark country. How dare you, Cthulhu? Never. Arnold Hayes says, you're missing out all the fun. It's Vegas, plus it's WrestleMania weekend down there. It is, but you know what, man? Put all that up. Holy Week is so much more important to me. I would much rather be at Mass on Holy Thursday, Good Friday, and Holy Saturday than anywhere else. Because, again, if we are not willing to, and I'm not saying that I do, I'm not perfect, okay? But if we're not willing to put God before all other things, we're not ordered correctly. We have a disordered of our passions, disordering of our life. And so I would not trade that for anything. So I hope that y'all have fun, though. Seriously, I hope that y'all have a blast. And I know that it will be fun. I know Vegas is always fun. The meetup there is always fun. But that's the reason why I can't make it this year. And in general, those other two are why I probably will never be able to make the Vegas trip in general. Unless we were able to, unless it was somehow over a fantastic, like, holiday, like, time off weekend situation, and was able to, like, go with the family so that way I'm not, like, gone, like, rent a house or something like that. But that probably won't happen for many years, if ever. So anyway, Wendy Hunter, thank you. Jimmy A, thank you. Okay, I do have to go, everybody. So thank you all very much for being here this evening. This has been a ton of fun. You guys are amazing. Please make sure to smash the like button, light up the fire button, obviously smash the rumble button as well. Yeah, that's the reason why I think Minecraft will definitely be able to make $1 billion at the box office, and why Holy Week is so very important. So seriously, Bottom of my heart, I hope everyone has an amazing Holy Week. Again, the reason for the season is, of course, Easter, not the bunnies, but the resurrection of Christ. And I hope that you all are able to attend Mass, especially on Easter. Very important, especially to my Catholics out there. Holy days of obligation. And especially if you're able to go to an Easter Vigil Mass, it is so well worth it, especially if you're able to go to a traditional Latin Mass. It is, again, one of the most amazing experiences that you will ever have in life. So anyway, you guys are amazing. And hey, Arnold, hey, perfect. I'm married, so I have my one, and she is phenomenal. And again, there's a good reason why I cringe so often on Friday Night Tights. Let me just say that much. And oftentimes I'm just like, oh, honey, I love you so much. Anyway, you guys are all amazing, beautiful. Have a wonderful rest of your evening and a blessed Holy Week. And I might see y'all on Easter Monday next week. I'll keep y'all posted. But until then, happy, blessed Holy Week. Happy Easter. And as always, God bless. Now for a huge special shout out to all of my Chosen of Valhalla members, starting off first with my people on Patreon, Father Luca Illich and Miss Martin Muses. Check out her YouTube channel by the same name, Miss Martin Muses. Also to my Subscribestar people, Matt317. Check out his Twitch channel by the same name, Matt317. And lastly to my YouTube member, Mr. Roy. Shout out to you, good sir. And if you want your name shouted out at the end of every live stream and video, check out the top link in the video description below where you get access to that. Also, you get access to a plethora of other things. You get your name listed at the end of every live stream and video, like you saw in those names that came up before this video started. And also access to a giveaways channel that I host over on the Discord server where I give away 4Ks, Steelbooks, Blu-rays, all kinds of stuff. So check that out if you're interested in that. Also, I have an exclusive podcast that I hold at least once a month, and it's always a good time, and you get extra bonus content with that also. So if any of that sounds interesting, again, check out that top link in the video description below. You guys are all amazing, and beautiful people. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and as always, God bless.